All right, everybody, we're here for the number 2 of our two-part series on the new Republican Party. So, last time we talked a little bit about where Donald Trump had started in 2015, where the 2024 election ended up across all sorts of different demographics, what this party looks like now. And so, what I wanted to focus on for this episode is some of the new policy prescriptions and the future of the Republican Party after Donald Trump. I know 2028 seems a long ways away, and Donald Trump has flirted with his third term, but it's not going to happen. Donald Trump is going to leave Washington, D.C. in 2028 as one of the most consequential American figures in history. And then there's going to be a next day where presumably at this point, if the administration does well, J.D. Vance will be the heir to the MAGA throne, and he will be the next nominee for our 2028 presidential run. So what does this party look like now from a policy standpoint? And the number one issue people had in the 2024 election that they expected Donald Trump to fix was the economy. We had record high inflation, and when I say record high, I mean just for recent memory. We had really high inflation at various points in this country's history, but in recent memory, we had the highest inflation we've ever had. It had been so long, most people had forgotten what inflation was like and how it happens, and the nature of it. People have all sorts of weird ideas of what causes inflation, that shutting the country down for COVID magically causes long-term inflation. It doesn't. Supply chain issues can cause short-term inflation, but they shouldn't cause long-term inflation. Printing billions or trillions and trillions of dollars is the main way you get inflation. That's how we got it in this last spate with Joe Biden's disastrous spending bills. But how is Donald Trump going to solve the economy issue? So the number one thing he's talking about now is tariffs. And tariffs are a very tricky economic tool to deal with, and they're not very well understood. Now, we're going to talk about this more in the future. We talked about it in the past, so I'm not going to go real in depth into tariffs here. But it seems like Donald Trump is positioning the Republican Party to be the protectionist party, where he is no longer going to allow cheap goods to come into the United States. And that creates a problem and possibly presents a solution. Okay. But the important part of tariffs is the problem becomes first. Okay. As soon as we implement tariffs on countries, I think we're at 200% on China last time I checked. What happens is that prices are going to reflect those tariffs almost immediately. You're not going to be able to get the super cheap shit from China that you might like as quickly anymore. Or I shouldn't say as quickly. You're not going to get it as cheaply anymore, and that's going to happen very quickly. Now, the argument is that by protecting United States industry, that, or I should say, let me back up. The tariff allegedly has two benefits. Number one, it raises government revenue so that we can then lower taxes. That's why Donald Trump says he can eliminate the income tax and replace it with tariffs. That's not going to happen, but that's his idea. And number two is that you protect domestic industry. And what that does is it's supposed to create good paying jobs, so then people have more money and they can afford the higher prices. The problem is the good paying jobs part of this does not happen overnight. The price changes do. So we could be in for some real short-term pain. And that's even assuming that the good paying jobs do end up reshoring themselves here. Okay. Now, the third kind of wild card option, and this is absolutely a part of it, is that this is all just a big threat, and he's going to end up reducing all these tariffs in exchange for other countries dropping their trade barriers with us, and we're going to end up with a world with more free trade than we started with. That doesn't seem to be true right now. Donald Trump seems really serious about these tariffs, and maybe he's just got a great poker face, and it's too soon to say, and we'll leave that up to interpretation. But for the purpose of this episode, we're going to assume that Donald Trump is serious about his 10% minimum taxes, that he really wants to eliminate the income tax and replace it with tariffs. Okay. So let's just talk real quick about why that's not feasible. Okay. The in the late 1800s, when Donald Trump talks about the last time we had no income tax, we had tariffs, the government spent 5% of domestic GDP. Okay. So of all the goods and services in the entire country, okay, the government spending was 5% of that. Right now, we are, I mean, our total debt is over 100% of GDP. I think we are, oh man, I wish I had, I'm looking up the actual percent right now. Okay. United States spends about 34% of its GDP is government spending. 34% versus 5%. And we have, 30s, almost $40 trillion in debt. So if we were to place tariffs to the tune of 35% of our economy, because it seems like with Doge, we're just not going to be cutting the amount that we need. And I'm going to get to Doge here, and I know that's going to be a rebuttal people have to this, but hold on, I'm going to get there. Even with, let's say Elon Musk achieves everything he wants to, cuts all the government spending he's going after, it's only like $2 trillion. It were his highest estimates. Okay. Even with that, you are not going to be able to place tariffs high enough to replace the income tax. Okay. The main way the government is raising revenue right now. It's just not going to happen. And here's why. Okay. If you have an income tax and, let's say somebody makes $100,000 and the government comes in and says, okay, we're going to take 25% of that. Okay. It's really higher in real life, but let's make the numbers easy. The government wants 25% of it. You need to feed your family. You are not going to stop working because the government is taking 25%. And that's one of the things that's the most dangerous about the income tax is that you can raise it, and it doesn't change what people are going to do. Okay. People are still going to work regardless of how high you raise the income tax. Okay. People who are retired go and work, volunteer, they do stuff for free because people would rather be doing something than nothing, even if there's no monetary benefit. Okay. So that's why we should get rid of the income tax, but we should, replace it in a different way. Tariffs are much more unpredictable because if you put a 25% tariff on something, what happens is that more and more people will decide to go without that product. And so then if people don't buy the product that the tariff is on, the government doesn't collect that money. So then they need to raise tariffs even more. And then once tariffs go even higher, now even less people can afford it. So they don't buy the good. So then the tariff isn't collected. And it just goes over and over and over again. You get into this death spiral. These indirect taxes, you can get into some really dangerous places. This is a tough economic concept here, but it can be dangerous. So these tariffs, while they can make a lot of sense for a product that is, or I should say, they can make a lot of sense for very specific products under very specific economic conditions, they do not make sense just in general. I'm sorry. It doesn't make sense to put a tariff on an avocado. Okay, we can't grow avocados here. It doesn't make sense to put tariffs on bananas. All you're doing is raising the price. Okay. Now, where it might make sense, okay, so maybe you put a 20% tariff on the production of ibuprofen. And so two things could happen then. Maybe you'll spur some domestic product of ibuprofen. That's good. We want painkillers made here. We get into a war with China. We don't want them making all our painkillers. So maybe some production comes back to our shores. And then maybe the Chinese market, okay, so prices would go up with this tariff a little bit. We get some domestic product here that's worth something. But then what we get to is we get this dynamic happening where the prices aren't going up 20%. Maybe they go up 10%. So China has to eat that 10%, half of the 20% tariff. And prices here in the United States go up the other 10%. At least China there's footing half the bill. Right now, they don't foot any of the bill of our income tax, but they're footing some of the bill for the tariff. So there are situations where it could happen. It's very difficult. We've covered this in previous episodes. Go check out the tariff episodes before this. But this idea that we're just going to put a 10% tariff on everything and we're going to get rid of the income tax, it's pie in the sky. It's not going to happen. And I'm worried that protectionist trade policy is going to become a mainstay for the Republican Party, when in reality, tariffs need to be targeted very specifically, and we should focus on cutting government spending. We are not going to tax and tariff our way out of this $40 trillion hole. We are only going to be able to get out of this hole by cutting spending. And probably what's going to happen is we're going to end up going bankrupt. But I wish Donald Trump was focusing more on the cutting of spending than the raising of these tariffs. It's a pretty dubious plan, to be honest with you. Now, hopefully it's all just bargaining chips and we're not going to have to deal with this for much longer. But it's not looking like it. So that brings me to, you know what? Well, let's go out of order here. Let's take Doge. Okay. Donald Trump is more so than Democrats focusing on cutting spending. Okay. He cut USAID all the way out. There's a bunch of government bureaucrats were fired. That's great. It has not saved us even 5% of our government spending. Not even close to 5%. I just threw that number out there. Let's see how much Doge has cut today. I've been watching this number go up and up and up and up, but it just tells you how big our government spending has been. Okay. Doge has claimed to have saved $150 billion. This is according to the New York Times. And let's see, $150 billion is what they claim to have saved. And that's probably over 10 years. And some claims can't be verified. Let's look. As a percent of government spending. So it's looking like there are a ton of numbers being thrown around here. Less than 1% of government spending is what I'm seeing. It's less than 1%. Okay. So far. And maybe they go and they cut some more. But it's not going to be enough, guys. Sorry. Got to dig in deeper. Got to cut harder. Bring in Mr. Wonderful to help out here, okay? We shouldn't just have one Doge. We should have 30. One for each agency, okay? It's all just, it's too big. But that is going to be a mainstay of the Republican Party. This part, protectionist trade policy probably will come and go. But the focusing on cutting spending needs to stay, and I think it will stay. There's this, new element of the Republican Party. I think it's 3 parts, and they're nearly equal for the new party. You've got about, it used to be 100% the Republican Party was just this kind of corporate milquetoast Republican standard talking points. You could just imagine Mitt Romney. That's like everybody that used to be in the Republican Party. Okay, they were all Lindsey Grahams. Now you've got 33% of the party still that. Okay, still this kind of, corporatist, monopoly driven, kind of scummy part. The worst part of the Republican Party, okay, is still alive. It's still there. Okay, it's this 33%. But then you've got this other 33%. It's the young people. It's the motivated people. It's the populist portion. Okay, it's the people that switched from Bernie Sanders to Trump supporters. Okay, it's the people we talked about in the last episode. It's the young men mostly. Okay, really energetic, punch way above their weight, even though they're 33% of the party now, roughly. I don't have stats for this. I'm just kind of trying to draw a picture in your head here. 33% populist, but they are 90% of the energy, driving a lot of the agenda. Okay, Donald Trump has really tapped into this populist energy. But then there's this other third that I call the libertarian third. Okay, you could see this with the podcast world. A lot of these guys have really libertarian bends. Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, Dave Smith, etc. There's always been this inclination in the Republican Party that government needs to be downsized, but they just never acted on it. Okay, these were the Lindsey Grahams of the world that talk about, you know, spending cuts and then authorize another $10 billion for the Pentagon. Okay, those people are being phased out, and you're seeing that with we actually had a president do something about the size of government, implementing Doge, and I think that it's going to be something that we stick with, and I hope so, because the reducing the size of government was always the thing that libertarians were right about, and it was always that wing of the Libertarian Party, the right-wing libertarians that voted for Republicans based on their promises to cut spending, even though they're failed promises. But I think this portion of the Republican Party now is here to stay and hopefully ends up driving a lot of policy. And that's actually going to get us into, well, let's just keep going out of order. I said I was going to go in order of importance, but I'm not. Foreign policy. There's a big battle here between the populist side isn't all that energetic about foreign policy, not nearly as much as these other two. The corporatist side, this is like their last stand. Okay, they want their endless wars. They want to have their industrial complex, military industrial complex. They want their billions and billions in subsidies. They want to get rich, and they want their foreign wars. Damn it. And the libertarian side, this is also one of their biggest issues. And they're the complete opposite. They hate them. And you can see this dichotomy in the Trump administration right now. He's got advisors like, who's the guy from the group chat with Pete Hegseth here? Now it's going to kill me. The Houthi PC small group, man. Pete Hegseth, I would actually put somewhere in the middle, maybe this corporatist side, maybe. It's kind of hard to say. He's actually kind of a wild card. He could end up being good, but some of his advisors, are just terrible. Really war hawks. I mean, back when John Bolton was in the administration, I'd put him in this, corporatist old guard side. Same with Mike Pompeo. Okay, they just love their wars, man. Nikki Haley, that's who I'm talking about. And thankfully, Trump said a lot of those people are not going to be allowed in this administration. So far, he's kept his word. I'm still trying to find this name of as soon as I hear it, I'm going to be... Mike Waltz. That's who I'm talking about. Neocons. That's who they are. Get rid of Mike Waltz. Fire him. All these guys that supported, if they're in there supporting the Iraq war, all this crap, working for Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney, just fire them. Get rid of those people. They're the worst. They're the worst wing of the Republican Party. But Donald Trump won on ending these wars. He won on ending the war in Ukraine. He won on ending the war in Gaza. And I think that this peacenik side of the party is going to win out. I think the neocons are going to finally be completely driven out of all their little holes of power that they weaseled out for themselves during the Bush administration. And it's going to become a foreign policy less focused on kinetic force. We're not going to be out there overthrowing, the governments of Libya. We're not going to be out there overthrowing the Baathists out in Iraq anymore. What's going to become a lot more focused on is dollar diplomacy, to use an old term, where we're threatening people with sanctions, tariffs, using our economy to bludgeon these countries down instead of our military. You can see Trump doing that. He's negotiating the end of the Ukraine war. He already had brokered a peace deal in Gaza, which I think is falling apart now, and then they're trying to put it back together. He's been really hard on NATO, making sure they pay their fair share, which is good for everybody. He's taken tough stances on Iran, but I think they're going to come to a deal there. He's been tough on China, but he doesn't threaten them with military force. Okay, he's being smart about it. And this is the right foreign policy. And actually, this is one of Trump's, shining accomplishments from his first administration, where Joe Biden was supposed to be, he's got a PhD in foreign policy. And he was a moron. He let the world go to shit. And Trump, with no foreign policy experience, had one of the best foreign policies we've seen at any president since Reagan. Just a good non-interventionist foreign policy. That's what the Republican Party is going to stand for here on out. It has really worked. Ron Paul had this saying always that in every election, it's the candidate for peace that wins. And Donald Trump has really shown that to be true. And finally, big one that I said we were going to get to that I've been kind of skirting around the edges on. Here's one where the libertarian folks are not the number one people, is the border, immigration. The border is the main issue that got Donald Trump elected the first time. Before the inflation started, 2015, he was feeling this frustration. And the immigration issue is actually a stand-in, okay, for also the economy. Americans aren't mad that there are more Hispanics coming to the country, okay? In some places that are really affected by the border crossings, maybe that's true, okay? And I think there's something to be said about the Democrats trying to change our demographics, especially in swing states. That's all true, okay? But for the vast majority of Americans, okay, what resonated with them about the immigration issue was that people are being brought here to undercut your wages. They're being brought here to demand housing that, by the way, you have to pay for with your tax dollars. Okay, while you're trying to save up for a home, okay, you need to subsidize apartments for these people that have come here illegally. And that's what really got people fed up, was because they couldn't afford a home. And then they had to subsidize housing for other people. And then even you get these people that come across the border and they do work hard and then they can afford to buy a house. Now you got more competition as an American citizen to buy homes with, because you can't build any damn homes because of the regulations in most of these states. Take California. Try to build a house in California. You're ever bored one day? Try and get permitted to build a house here in California. Go ahead and see how that goes. Yet they want to bring 11 million people in. You already can't afford a house to undercut your wages. That's what pissed people off. And that's why Donald Trump really was resonating with his build the wall message. Okay. And still resonated, I would say, even more in 2024, because the economy was so much worse. And Joe Biden had just got done bringing in the most illegal immigrants this country has ever seen in 4 years. And so that is being really tough on immigration is going to be something that the Republican Party focuses on now if they want to win. And you can see, I mean, we've covered the stats on here before. I won't run you through them again, but super majorities of Americans support mass deportation. It is amazing how fucked up Joe Biden did on this job. Okay. He single-handedly turned a majority of Democrats to supporting mass deportation. So much of a retard this guy was. and his administration around him. I mean, they just morons. They've made this a winning issue. And keep in mind, every one of these issues, and this is what's so masterful about Donald Trump, every one of these is an 80-20 issue. 80% of people siding with Donald Trump. Over 80% of people want the border secure, mass deportations. Over 80% of people want these foreign wars to end, okay? Well over 80% of people want inflation down, the economy better. He has managed to position himself on the right side of every one of these issues. And granted, Democrats have screwed up so badly that they've ceded this ground to him, but he's the one that seized it. Okay. Originally in 2015, he seized the ground of immigration that Democrats left wide open, where other Republicans wouldn't. And he continued that strategy for every issue. You can even throw some social issues in there. You know how many people support men in women's locker rooms? It's not more than 80-20. Okay, Donald Trump's on the right side of that one. You know how many people think you can change your gender? Not more than 20%. You know how many people think that men should be competing in women's sports? It's another 80-20 issue. Donald Trump has pigeonholed the Democrats into every one of these shitty ass issues. Okay? He's done a masterful job doing it offensively. Republicans need to continue this. This is what our party is going to be about. Okay? Good economy, non-interventionist foreign policy, secure borders. Okay? Law and order is another one. You know how many people now support Black Lives Matter, burning down all our cities? 80-20 issue. Donald Trump's on the right side. And we're not even going to get all that much into the law and order. I mean, we're 4 years removed now from the summer of love. 4 or 5 years, I don't even know. Try not to think about it. But man, the tough on crime message works really well. It does. So that's what I think that our focus needs to be on as a party from here: immigration, economy, non-interventionists. That's how we're going to continue to win elections, okay? And then let's be smart on the social issues. We shouldn't focus on them, but let's be smart on them. Okay, let's make sure that we're not getting into this woke crap. Let them do it. It's an 80-20 issue. Another one, Trump plays great defense. Okay, we didn't even get to talk about the way he plays defense. I mean, abortion is one of the most unpopular issues for Republicans. Let's just face it. The pro-life stance isn't cool to a lot of people. Even though it should be, it's not cool. It's not all that popular even, really. Look at some of the elections that happened after Roe versus Wade went down. Donald Trump took the issue off the table. He just came out and said right away, we're not going to have any federal legislation on abortion. And it took the wind right out of the Democrat sails. That was the only thing they had. That with a woman candidate, they had all this opportunity to set up a lot of momentum to behind, make this an abortion election, and Trump refused to let him do it. He just ceded them all the popular ground. Nope. No, most people do not want federal legislation on abortion, and Donald Trump immediately recognized that and said, "We're not gonna fight this battle here. We're not gonna die on this hill. Let's get in power. Let's win the election." Okay, it's just a stroke of genius. Most Republicans would have been baited right into that issue. Wouldn't do it. Okay. I wish he was better on free speech and big tech. He seems to kind of made a truce with a lot of them. All these companies should be broken up. Facebook, Google, break them up. I think you make the argument you don't have to break up Twitter, and that's not just because I like Elon Musk, but if you look at his business practices, they are nowhere near as predatory as Google's, as Facebook's. Facebook's acquired Instagram. I don't remember if they've acquired Snapchat or not, but those companies need to be broken up. What they did in the 2020 election is unforgivable. Break them up. Breaking up monopolies, another 80-20 issue. Let's commit to it. So that's my take on the future of the Republican Party. What JD Vance needs to do if he wants to be president in 2028 is embrace these issues in this fashion. And I think it'll be an easy win. I think this is a great platform for Republicans in the future, especially now that the propaganda arm of the Democratic Party has been destroyed. This is it. Pedal to the metal. Don't let them back up. It's all really, really good stuff. Thanks for listening, guys.